All right, well, we're just going to fight through that. So I just wanted to mention a couple of other efforts going on related to implementation of the governor's executive order. At 5:30 p.m. this evening in Fresno, the Energy Commission will be holding a workshop on the Water Energy Technology Program, which was created through the governor's executive order. This is a program which is going to bring technologies that are at the small scale and really work on getting them to full deployment across the state or across different sectors of the state. So it's going to be phased. The first focus of the program will be on agriculture technology in the agricultural sector, and then they'll move on to urban and commercial technology. It's a program that looks like it's going to have a budget of about $30 million for the entire program, and more information is available on the Energy Commission's website. In addition, the governor's office is organizing a water technology summit, which will be held here at the Cali PA building in July, again, which will really focus on all things water technology, from behavioral technology to treatment technology to natural systems. Everything that's being used in water right now. It will include collaboration from other countries and other parts of the world that have really been developing water technology and are aligned with California on our climate goals. And so there will be more information on that forthcoming. So there are actually a lot of efforts going on in this sphere right now. One other thing I just wanted to mention, there's been a lot of attention recently on various aspects of the drought in the urban sector. In particular, recently there's been interest in the impacts of swimming pools. We had representatives from that industry come and testify to the board at the meeting. And one of the things that I think is just important to emphasize here is that there are a lot of actions that we need to take this summer, and the focus of those actions is really reducing the amount of outdoor irrigation, particularly to thirsty landscape like turfs, but then also really on leak detection and fixing leaks. And the reason I mentioned pools is because one of the things that pool owners can really do to minimize their water use over the summer is check for leaks, because it's often leaky valves that really make a pool's water use much higher than it otherwise would be. And on the subject of leaks, there are a lot of other places where people should be checking for leaks too. Toilets are an obvious place for leaks, and irrigation systems can leak as well. And then, of course, as part of its resolution, the board has called upon the water suppliers themselves to really work on reducing leaks in their distribution systems, and that's an area of focus as well. So I just wanted to end on that. Let's focus on the lawns and the leaks as we move into the summer.
Thank you, Max, very much. And just so I can be the first to also say, go to SWRCB.com, which has a lot of tips, but you're right. It's all about lawns and leaks this summer.
Lawns, leaks, and rural areas. So that was what I was wanting to bring up today. So Stanislaus County, about a week and a half ago, adopted an ordinance countywide restricting watering to no more than 2 days per week. And the leader or the advocate of this ordinance is Supervisor Vieto Chiesa, who is also president of CSAC. And so he's interested in seeing if he can get his colleagues throughout the state to adopt a county ordinance. And what makes this one really important is that they're providing for code enforcement, and also including a position in Stanislaus County. I don't know, how much that's going to get, but they're interested in also getting some folks out on the ground. So I did send this information to staff and would like to follow up with you on it, see what we can do to coordinate with CSAC and getting this information, what other
Association
counties...
of Counties for folks who are...
Yes. Getting information on what other counties already have restrictions and seeing what we can do to get everybody to get on board here.
Absolutely, and that brings up another important point to mention, which is that the Department of Water Resources, as part of implementing the executive order, is updating the state's model landscape ordinance. And code enforcement will be an important part of making sure that that ordinance has full effect. And they're looking to get a draft out in the mid part of this month. I think I saw June 12th, so that's another thing to look at.
And to pile on, as though you don't have enough to do already, I have been meeting with a number of various groups who are in stages of excitement and terror over the requirements. But one group in particular that you are particularly able to work with are the CPUC regulated IOUs. And they have expressed in several different venues questions about how they go about doing their enforcement, because they don't have police powers and they're not like other private or public agencies. So I think it might be good over the next, I don't know, few weeks anyway, to set up a phone call or perhaps work with Rami on that at the CPUC to have just a concentrated conversation with IOUs about how what some of their options are for dealing with this. And Malibu was particularly concerned, and she said, well, we only have one person. And I said, well, you've got a police department, and you've got a fire department, and you've got a city. And she said, oh. And so I just think there's a need.
That's a good point, and we will set that up. This also brings up that the governor in his proposals for the budget has included enhanced enforcement authority for a wider range of local governments and institutions. So there may be the ability, for example, for an investor-owned utility that's within a wholesale water district's service area to partner with that district on enforcement, assuming that legislation is approved.
Yeah, maybe this is a good time to bring this up. When I was in the Santa Ana region, I met with some folks locally, water purveyors, and I was just so impressed, and I feel like I need to really highlight the leadership that I saw at the local level. See, in the Santa Ana region, you may not know this, but they're actually, a lot of their water supply is local. It's sort of one of those things people don't realize, but with all the recycled water use, it's 70% given plus or minus in a given year is local water supply. And yet I'm seeing this kind of leadership. This Saturday, June 6th, the City of Anaheim Public Utilities, along with the Municipal Water District of Orange County, is holding a Save Water Expo at a major new facility called the Arctic, which is a big regional transportation center. It's free for the public. And the amount of time and effort to do this is really impressive. Anaheim has gotten together 26 private companies, including Angels baseball team, Disneyland, Anaheim Home Depot, Anaheim Lowe's, really pulling out all the stops with these 26 private companies, 8 water service providers. So Anaheim's a big city, but there's many cities that are water service providers. They're providing the leadership and the site, and then the other water providers are joining in. 2 private utilities, investor-owned utilities are involved. 3 nonprofits, including UC Riverside and Orange County Coast Keeper. And this is just a major event, and it shows that we, at the state level, we want to do what we can. But we're really, to be successful, we're going to rely on leadership at the local level to get the word out. And the event is a fun event, and it's a festival type atmosphere, but it has all these entities, including, showerhead providers, irrigation experts out there to help, take SWRCB to the booth level for the citizens of all the greater Orange County area that are interested in learning specifically what they can do to deal with lawns and leaks and other priorities for this coming summer. So I just want to recognize the efforts of Anaheim and other partners at the local level. I encourage you to generate this type of community outreach and engagement, because it's clear that Californians clearly care about the challenge, and this is a chance to reach out and create the teamwork. So I just wanted to put a shout out. Oh, yes. As Board Member Dodick noted, the opposite side of the flyer is in Spanish, so that it, again, increases the outreach value, to Californians. I know there's other languages too. So thank you very much. But thanks to our partners for really taking this issue seriously. And Anaheim's not at one of those highest tiers. They're just one example of many of true partners that are out there.
Philosophy of kindness in Anaheim, which is pretty interesting, actually. Before we go to the speakers, I have one more question that I meant to ask earlier, and that's, as we look at these numbers, again, I know we don't know whether the numbers went up because it was cooler in some places or not, because in some places it actually was hotter when I looked at your chart, or that it was a little wetter or not. But anecdotally, are you hearing from people? One of the things I've noticed, and it could just be the media moving to this, is that there are a lot of communities stepping up and say, yeah, we got to do this. Even when we issued the last set of regulations, although there were some folks who were very vocally against it, there were a lot of people who said they would do it. Even it would be hard, but they would do it. And so I'm sort of feeling like the local communities are stepping up in a way that they weren't before, and I'm hoping that that's why we're starting to see the uptick. The real challenge is we've really got to step it up for the summer months, because of the fact that half of water use is outside. If we miss the summer, we're toast on this. Do you have a sense, just from talking with folks, how much of it is temperature and how much of it is real effort?
Anecdotally, I think there's a lot. It's real effort. I think people, when they saw the governor out on that dry meadow and saw what was in the executive order and realized, it was really time to step up, they started stepping up. The agencies did. People saw that the drought is going on and really made the commitment. So I think I'm optimistic that we'll continue to see this improvement.
All right, we have two speakers. Sarah Amanzadeh from the Coast Keeper Alliance. Thanks for joining us. I know, I just always get nervous about sound, right?
All right. Good morning, Chair Marcus and board members. My name is Sarah Amanzadeh, and I'm the Executive Director of California Coast Keeper Alliance. I just want to say a few words as these numbers have come out. First, I want to thank the board staff for their hard work on this. I know it's been an extremely heavy lift to report out on this data and make some helpful recommendations as to where we should be going, so I just want to recognize that work. I was absolutely thrilled to hear about the water waste reporting portal. I understand that it'll be out in the next couple of weeks, and I think that the figure of 22,000 reports from citizens about water wasting was really powerful, and I think that really underscores the importance and the need for citizen enforcement and sort of self-regulation and implementation of these regulations. So I really look forward to the launch of that portal and really empowering citizen enforcement. Chair Marcus, you noted that water suppliers have been reporting now for almost a year. And so we do have a good amount of information already about use and about compliance with the voluntary regulations, which will of course become mandatory next set of numbers. And so I just want to ask that we can continue to work together in the coming months, that we don't wait until the first mandatory regulation compliance numbers come out, and that we really look at the data that we already have before us to start to look at enforcement targets and implementation. And enforcement from my perspective is not about punishment. I think it's really important to communicate to Californians that we need to rethink our water use And we've seen that happening in a lot of areas. There's a lot of community interest and engagement, but there are some areas where it just hasn't happened. And I think to the extent that the board can take a proactive role in looking at, what are the top 10 highest water users based on almost a year of data, and how do those compare to some of the other areas? 8 out of 10 of the highest water users are in the South Coast, for example. So can we do some concerted outreach and focus there? Board Member Moore noticed the expo, but is there also a role at the regional water board staff level and working with the board to sort of really look at that and see what's going on there and see what we can do before we get those first numbers? And I think to the extent that the board can communicate the enforcement strategy and the priorities to water users and to the public, that will set us up best for success. So are we looking at the most populous regions? Are we looking at the highest gallons per capita per day? Is there some acknowledgement or sort of adjustment for temperature? I think that will be really important because there are a lot of communities that have been making some deep cuts, and there is an equity argument here. We do see some correlation of affluent areas that really maintain a high water use. And I think it's important that as a state, we make a statement about that and just say, we haven't come as far as we need to go. We need to step it up, and here's our plan to get there. And so I just want to offer my assistance in doing that, and all the local water keepers are available as well. Board Member Moore noted the importance of local leadership, and so just look forward to working with you on that in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you, as always. David Boland from the Association of California Water Agencies, thank you again for SWRCB.
Chair Marcus and members of the board, David Boland, Association of California Water Agencies. To echo the last kudos here for the staff's hard work. We appreciated working with the staff and with board member leadership over the last couple of months to really do this heavy lift on moving the dial on conservation. We think that's happening, and we're appreciating the effort that's showing up on the numbers. We are in an outreach phase. Aqua has cooperated with the administration and with the water board to do a series of webinars. I wanted to quickly advertise those for folks that might be tuning in. This is really great content. We had 3 different webinars, one on May 21st, one on the morning of May 26th, and another one on the afternoon of May 26th. And they were targeted toward water agencies primarily, but we also worked in cooperation with the California Association of Counties and the League of Cities, and we got a lot of folks from particularly smaller agencies signing up for those webinars. The first one had a lot of information on tools and funding, some of which Max mentioned in his presentation, and I would encourage you to go to that site to find detailed links to websites where there are some tools available and some funding information from the administration. And then on the 26th, on the regulation itself in the morning, targeting, or the morning session on the 411 water agencies, the large agencies, and this whole regulatory structure here, and just answering some questions on that. And then on the 26th in the afternoon, targeting the smaller agencies. And that was a bit of an eye-opener, I think, for all of us, as a lot of participants weren't aware that the smaller agencies are also having to do some compliance here, focusing on 25% reduction or reducing their irrigation outdoors to 2 days a week, and that they need to implement that immediately starting yesterday. So we have this information on our website. I'm encouraging folks to go there and get it. It will be valid for a long time to come, and it's worth wading through because there's a lot of nuggets there for folks to listen in on. And then also the customer outreach and the CII messaging, commercial, industrial, and institutional messaging. We've been contacted by a lot of trade associations and others at a statewide scale on what are water agencies supposed to, or what are commercial entities supposed to do. And of course, our messaging is get back to your locals. A lot of the action is at the local agency in terms of the rules, the specific rules and the specific focus on the different sectors. And so we're encouraging commercial and industrial and institutional folks to contact their local provider, whether they be an IOU or a public agency that's among the large ones or even a small public agency and try to get the information on what they can do. The main focus, of course, for all the sectors is on outdoor irrigation and substantially cutting that outdoor irrigation during the summer season. Many of our agencies are releasing press releases now that are focusing on 50%, recommending 50% cutbacks, dropping irrigation to 1 day a week, in many cases, in some cases up to 2 days a week. But the idea is to focus on outdoor irrigation. The other couple things that came up during the presentations, we mentioned pools. One huge thing is pool covers. You'd think everybody that has a pool would have a pool cover just for safety reasons and for evaporation. But significant losses to pools occur during the summer, particularly in the hotter climate, due to evaporation. So we would encourage pool covers. There are a couple other ideas there that are out in terms of different methods for saving water, and a lot of those tips and tools are on SWRCB.com. And so I would encourage consumers as well as commercial and industrial and as well as institutional groundskeepers and other folks to get to that site and find good information and go from that site to other places out there in the world that have lots of tools and tips available at this point. So we're optimistic, I think, about what we can do in weeks to come. We do want to work on the work group process. We think that there are a lot of good ideas out there for additional ways of I guess, administering our conservation mandatory targets in time to come. We are hopeful, of course, that we'll be able to run this particular 270 days out, and that we'll have torrential El Nino conditions in all parts of the state that result in recharge but not flooding, and that we get our reservoirs recharged. But it will probably realistically be a long time before we're back to a normal set of conditions here. So we need to focus particularly on what we can do in the next weeks and short period of time, the next months.
And there may be a new normal.
That may be the case, and we may be seeing it happening on a weekly and monthly basis. And so it's very important to look at that temperature and weather information as we look forward to the future.
Thank you again for all of your work. I have a question, and it's for any of you, including you. Is there, has anyone found the perfect resource for helping people figure out how to spot leaks at home? Max talked about it, but to me, if there's one message to get through to people for the summer or for right now where you see the biggest potential reductions, it's lawns and leaks. And I just haven't seen I've heard pieces of it, the food coloring in the toilet bowl, and then go fix the flapper can get hard. The rubber gets hard and you lose a seal. That's pretty easy to do it yourself and fix. And a huge amount of the time, hopefully that solves the whole problem. But there's the refill valve on a swimming pool, the automatic refill valve, where people don't even know it's leaking because they put in the refill valve. But if there's one source we could send people to do, I think that would be something to push in the next few weeks, along with the lawns, and of course, noting the tremendous step that Met took in putting $350 million out for lawn rebates, because the demand is huge. So I know other communities are doing that as well. Those are the two biggest things. But is there a great resource on leaks we could send people to right now? Could be SWRCB.com, just with a how-to.
Well, one of the things that I discovered, and I was surprised, I can go online and track if everything's shut off and things are moving, that means I have a leak. And so I think many communities have that, but they're not advertising that the retail customers have access to that information.
Right? If you turn off your water and you have a meter you can read, I'm in multifamily so I can't, but you have a meter you can read and it's moving when you've turned your water off, that means you have a leak. Stuff like that, sort of the top 10 tips.
Yeah, I guess I would encourage customers to contact their water agency, look at your bill, look at whether your usage is higher than you would think it should be, and then contact your water agencies. Many water agencies will, for free, come down and actually look through the house, and they're the experts. They can really spot leaks a long ways away, although listening to the sound, the toilet refill sound that occurs periodically all night, that's a clue.
That's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign. If you're hearing hissing and strange noises from your bathroom, that's a likely leak in the toilet. And then just on the outdoor irrigation situation, if you've haven't irrigated a certain area and you see some moist earth, that's a clue that maybe you have a broken pipe. Another really common one is just the sprinkler heads themselves get busted off or dinged up. And if you're irrigating in the morning, early morning hours before you even get up with a controller, you may not notice that. So run your cycle some Saturday before 8 ideally, but when you're up and you can see how your irrigation system is performing, because you may have a leaky emitters of various types. And Max was leaning over there. I think he's got some ideas too.
It occurs to me, I do think there's probably a way to organize the SWRCB website so that there's a leaks section, but it also occurs to me that I believe it was you, Chair Marcus, who a while back handed me a little card, and that card had the 10 elements of the Governor's Water Action Plan listed on it. But the idea of having some type of little checklist or, numbered thing on how to go through and look for leaks, I think would be a good one.
Well, I just think people want to know what to do. I mean, people really want to contribute. We saw the polls where people thought they know there's a drought, they think they're doing all they can. Maybe everybody else isn't doing all they can, but I'd love to give people the info to say, look at this list, have you done all these things? Because leaks are that silent problem where people may not even know unless they affirmatively go look. And then again, folks overwater their lawns, and lawns are kind of hard to kill. So
one more simple thing that we're doing at Save Our Water, we have little buckets, they're branded, very small buckets, that you can put in your shower to get the cold water where you're warming your shower up. Everybody has to do that. It's very rare for people to have instant hot water. And so you save, maybe a couple gallons of water as you're warming your shower up. It seems laborious and kind of silly in a way for a gallon or two. But, every day you get a gallon or two of water. That's a fair number of plants you can be watering, to the point where you can drown your plants if you're not careful.
that's
you have to
right.
be careful about what you do
Don't
with that
drown the
water.
plants. Water the trees. When you're
Water
not
your
watering
trees.
your
Go
lawn,
further out
water
in the back
trees.
40 and put your gallon out there.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I realize we're at 11:20. I'd like to, I need to take a break, but and I know that folks are waiting to do some follow-ups on conservation. But can we move to item number 7, because the gentleman's been here and we just have one speaker?
No, 8.
8. Oh, yeah, 8. That's the one with circle here, sorry. Is that all right? Thank you all very much, as always. You're a great team. Oh, wait, this is all on 8? If we have all of these, I'm going to want to take a break first. They don't say one or the others. How many folks put in cards for item number 8 that don't need to speak necessarily? Okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, it'll be 3 minutes then, because we have to. Okay. Oh, okay, fine. Good.
Good morning, Chair Marcus, members of the board. Christopher Stevens with Division of Financial Assistance, and I have Megan Tosney here from our Office of Sustainable Water Solutions, Ann Hartridge from our Office of Chief Counsel. I do have a few remarks before we talk about the comments that were received. Overall, this item 8 is for the 2015-2016 intended use plan for the Clean Water SRF program. Overall, the IUP looks very similar to recent years, with 2 notable differences. Number 1 is, of course, we've got a significant amount of money this year from Proposition 1 for both small community wastewater projects as well as water recycling. And then the second major difference is Congress significantly changed the way that that principal forgiveness is calculated in the Clean Water SRF. So in 2014, they approved the Water Resources Reform and Development Act, and that changed the formula for how much of the capitalization grant you can use for principal forgiveness. The 2015 grant will be about $100 million, which is comparable to the last several years. but the principal forgiveness could be up to $30 million, which is about 3 times what it has been in previous years. So fairly significant difference there. Of course, given the fact that we've got a lot of Proposition 1 funds for small disadvantaged communities, that kind of created an opportunity to look again at how we're using the principal forgiveness in the Clean Water SRF program. And so what the draft IUP recommended is that the principal forgiveness be redirected to address climate change and sustainability objectives that the board has.
The existing, because we have another source of funding.
Say that again?
So that, not all of it, but because we have the grants. So the grants are going to substitute for loan forgiveness because we don't usually have those grants. I'm just trying to make sure people understand.
Yes, yes, correct. So historically, principal forgiveness has been used for disadvantaged communities. We had 2 different categories. About 60% of that went to small disadvantaged communities. Category 2 was what we called other disadvantaged communities. In the neighborhood of $8 to $10 million per year for principal forgiveness, along with some grant funds that we collect using the interest on loans that are outstanding. So yes, because we have so much money available for small disadvantaged communities, and there's really been a very small amount for other disadvantaged communities. Now we're going to have much more principal forgiveness available. We took a look again at how we've been using that and whether that's the best use for the principal forgiveness. And so what the draft IUP that was put out for comment recommended is that the principal forgiveness be redirected to water and energy efficiency projects as well as green infrastructure projects using what they call the Green Project Reserve, which is some criteria that EPA has put together about 4 or 5 years ago. There's 4 different categories there: water efficiency, energy efficiency, green infrastructure, and environmentally innovative projects. So we think that would be perhaps a better use for the principal forgiveness.
For this year.
For this year, yes.
Because you don't anticipate running out of that other money for disadvantaged communities. I just want to be clear that people understand that we're not shifting from disadvantaged communities to something else. It's that we have other resources we can use for disadvantaged communities. So it gives us an opportunity to fund some other things without taking any of it from a disadvantaged community.
Yes, we have about $250 million from Proposition 1 for small disadvantaged communities. So
And note, he said small. That means not urban.
For instance,
This-
neighborhoods within Los Angeles, for instance.
Exactly. And so if those larger but very disadvantaged communities in urban areas are going to participate, this program will help them on water, energy efforts, on green infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. So it is still, as you say, for disadvantaged communities, but at least urban disadvantaged communities will be eligible.
There's overlap with this extended definition of the green project reserves. There's overlap with disadvantaged communities in some cases, in many cases.
You know, it's hard to predict at this point, but yes, that's my belief, is that those communities that would have been competing for Category 2 principal forgiveness previously will be in a very good position to, compete for principal forgiveness under the new criteria, yes.
Thank you.
So specifically what staff recommended in the draft IUP was that principal forgiveness would be available for those 4 categories of projects, 50% of actual project costs up to a maximum of $2.5 million. And then the other aspect of that we put in was to incentivize water and energy efficiency projects, future projects, that we would make principal forgiveness, 100% principal forgiveness up to a maximum of $35,000 available for water and energy audits to look for future projects. As I've sort of alluded to, but perhaps not made clear, the IUP serves as the guidelines for Proposition 1 small disadvantaged communities. One of the requirements for Proposition 1 was that the guidelines be put out for public review at least 30 days before having 3 public meetings. And Megan can speak to that in great detail if necessary. The draft guideline, the draft IUP was put out for public review February 20th. Along with an email notification, and then staff held 3 public meetings on March 24th, 26th, and March 30th. Comments were accepted up until April 3rd. There were 11 comment letters that were received. Staff analyzed those comments and summarized them. There should be a point-by-point summary along with staff responses in your binder there. They were also posted on the web. Staff subsequently made changes to the draft IUP, the most notable being that we've committed to develop a technical assistance funding plan that we would bring back to the board later this year. And we incorporated higher grant maximums for regional planning projects. There were 2 comment letters that were received in response to the board's posted agenda, and I'll just take a minute to kind of summarize those. The first one does sort of touch on what Member Spivey Weber talked about. The City of Los Angeles expressed some concern about redirecting principal forgiveness from that other disadvantaged category. Typically larger communities can take advantage of their economies of scale and they're in a better position to address community affordability. Staff also does have some flexibility to look at interest rates if necessary. And as I mentioned earlier, I think those agencies would also be in a very good position to still compete for the principal forgiveness for water and energy projects. I think they have a lot of things that they can do there. And if you look at the benefit, I think, to the board of investing funds in these different categories of projects, I think on balance, it's a fair trade-off. The other comment we received was from the Bay Area Biosolids to Energy Coalition, and they expressed support for redirecting the principal forgiveness, but they asked that the maximum be increased from $2.5 million to $5 million. They felt that $2.5 million might not be enough to provide sufficient incentive for some of these projects. I think it's very difficult to know exactly what the right amount of subsidy is for a project. And so I guess I would point out that the Clean Water SRF policy does give the executive director the authority to amend the IUP during the year for good cause. And so I guess what I would recommend at this point is not be too hasty in setting too high a level. We still have to do some marketing and outreach for this, let people know that it's available. And so I would say let's let that ride for a little bit, see how things are going. If we're not getting enough response to that, or we're finding that projects just don't pencil out with that particular limit, we can look at changing that later on.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the speaker cards. It appears as if it's about a particular location and issue, so eager to hear about it. I've got Juan Urelas, Gary Rodriguez, Gloria Gonzalez, and Reynaldo Martinez.
We're still mourning.
Thank you for sitting with us. I'm sorry if I realized it was a particular issue. Maybe we could have put you into public comment at the beginning of the day. My apologies.
Madam Chair, board members, we're from South Shafter and Shafter. We're in Kern County. It's a very small community. South Shafter is a very small community. It's made up of different small pockets that were created during the Dust Bowl era and before. And people live out there for specific reasons because they either were not allowed to live in the city of Shafter at a certain time or we go back to the history of migration in California and Kern County. But right now what we want to speak on specifically is the guidelines and amending the guidelines to show that we're asking for 100% grant as opposed to partial loan for specific reasons. And we drove 4.5 hours this morning to get up here to join you on this. Shafter, right now, the unincorporated area, it's part of Kern County. We don't belong to specifically the city of Shafter. We're not incorporated by the city, so therefore, all of our work has been going through the county. And the county has, we've been working with the county for over 10 years now to try to get sewer, and now that this bond measure has gone through, we appreciate your efforts, staff's efforts, and of course the taxpayers' efforts to put this on the measure. The unemployment rate in South Shafter is around 23%. The drought has affected our workforce, and also the drop in oil prices. We have a 66% farm worker community, where a lot of the workers are seasonal, where they work in the almonds and they work in the grapes, so they're not necessarily working full year round. 74% of the households make less than $35,000 a year. 33% of the households make less than $25,000 per year. We have about 8 to 9% of the population that makes less than $10,000, and we know that at least 16% of our population is on Social Security or fixed incomes. In finalizing the data, we have about 50% of the population is at or below the poverty level. So we feel that low wages and low income residents should not have to pay higher rates for sewer in this case, and that's what we're looking at. So we're here to ask yourselves as a board to amend the resolution and to state that all disadvantaged communities receive the 100% grant as opposed to partially loan, and that's what we're looking for. And we'll have some testimonies from community members.
Is there a particular project that you all have on deck right now?
It's called the South Shafter Sewer Project. It should be on the state list. And if there's...
Can someone from the staff sort of speak to this? Because
Yeah. So we have been working with the county on this project. It's a septic to sewer project to connect this area that's outlying the city of Shafter to the local sewer system. And you know, at this point, the county is still working on some of the planning documents to complete the application, but they are working towards qualifying for Prop 1 funding. And the one thing that I think we can potentially rely on in this case is in Table 4 of the IUP, there's a specific exception where we do have some leeway to consider unemployment or other factors of that sort in making a determination that a given project should be eligible for 100% grant funding. And so I think this is one of those where, you know, as the application comes to a close and we have more information about the costs and the individual rates per household, that we can make those sorts of determinations. And if it's a case where, you know, the given criteria don't allow us to be as flexible as we need to be, we can always come back to the board to ask for a, you know, special exception because of the given scenario. But I think we did look at the criteria we have in place, and we did analyze it, and we feel that where we're at is fair for the typical case, and so that's why we didn't necessarily change the criteria.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to have a criteria that says all disadvantaged communities get 100%, because that I don't think we could go that far. But I would say that our staff is very committed to working with communities and we spend a lot of time coming to us with particular cases, and they look at cases across the field. But I would suggest that when we break, you meet with staff so that they know you. But you've all come a long way, so happy to hear from the rest of you as well. But our staff actually has a very good reputation of working with communities. It's part of why the drinking water program was also moved to us, and we're very proud of that. So happy to work with you, and it's nice to be able to do it not just with low-cost loans we can forgive, but with actual grant dollars. So we're we're in a wonderful place to be able to deal with some very challenging issues that have been around a long time, and it's nice to be here at a time where we have the tools to actually help folks, which is what we're really looking forward to doing. But please, since you've come so far. Sure, if you'd like. We will. I guarantee you, you have a project going, we will get to know you. But you've come so long.
I'm Ronaldo Martinez. I was raised in Smith's Corner where we have all these problems. And, it's sad to see that 74 years has gone by and we still haven't got no sewer system. So and I'm on a fixed income, so I couldn't afford to pay, X amount of money. So that's why we're looking for,
Wallace, and also I'm representing Shafter. It is, we know we have to pay something, but we're quoted $77, which a month, $77 a month, that's quite a lot. If they could just go down, we're tired of dealing with the smell, we're tired of dealing with, it's just hard, and then getting it taken out, you have to have the septic go out there and take it out every 6 months, $400. We just need help.
Hi, my name is Juana Velas, and nice meeting you all members of the board, and I hope you will take into consideration our request. We're asking for free grant money, funding for our minority community. We ask and you take us into consideration because we want to eliminate our septic systems and convert to sewer lines where there's a line that's coming near us that we can hook onto, but we only need $10 million to get that done. And that is our first priority, looking into all this grant money wherever, because our main concern is our kids that are growing out there, and we have to dispose of gray water. We've seen homes where their sewer backs up into their shower, into their kitchen sinks, and that is not a healthy wise. It creates it opens up room for other illnesses, diseases that they have to confront to and pay the cost for that. And thank you, members of the board.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for wanting the system. You'd be surprised how many people come and they don't want to change the system out. So I'm going to take a break now, and so make sure you introduce yourself to staff so that, I know you're working through the county, but that way so that they know you as well. And we'll watch for your project.
And I just have a question of staff, and I'm assuming that the guidelines, the point that you make is of significant concern on public health and safety. Do the guidelines provide for consideration of that?
Yeah, we do also have a higher grant maximum for projects that are a public health concern, and so that would be a helpful factor in this
Good.
case.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Option.
Second.
Aye.
Carries. Thank you all for your attention. No, it was a longer morning. I know we have a couple of other things before we go to our closed session, but with your indulgence, I'd like us to take a break, go to the closed session, then come back to the non-closed items, because I'd like at least a half hour. That's all right? And you can grab food if you need it. So we'll go into closed session at 12:15. And then, yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll recess for a half hour.